Alhamdulillah. As-salatu was-salam ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Muslim Skeptic channel, where we question the big answers. My name is Daniel. I blog for muslimmatters.org as well as my personal blog islamandevolution.com. Today I wanted to talk to you about short shorts. Specifically, there was a popular article that came out about a month ago titled Practicing Islam in Short Shorts. And it's about a Muslim woman who prays, she fasts, reads Quran, but she also wears short shorts, drinks whiskey, does drugs, and doesn't see any contradiction with any of that. Overall, I thought it was an introspective piece and expressed things that a lot of Muslims are feeling and are struggling with. That being said, I thought that the essay got a number of things wrong. One of the things that really annoyed me actually about the article was its characterization of traditional or conservative Islam, the Islam that says don't drink whiskey, don't do drugs, or dress provocatively. The author characterizes that Islam as fossilized and inflexible. Look, criticizing traditional Islam and organized religion in general is not exactly controversial or groundbreaking in this day and age. People have been calling organized religion strict, inflexible, overbearing for a long, long time. At this point, it's just something that many of us simply assume. Think about that famous religious zealot Ned Flanders, for example, on the popular TV show The Simpsons. He's awkward, out of touch, and just a loser. No one wants to be Ned Flanders. So if organized religion is inflexible and strict, the opposite of religion is liberating and freeing. Just throw off the chains of traditional religion and let loose. Be yourself. Live every day to the max. That's the message that we're given over and over again, and it's a dichotomy that is really drilled home. And the idea is that organized religion is equal to strictness and burden, whereas throwing off religion or leaving religion is equated with being liberated and having fun. So do we as Muslims have to accept this dichotomy? What I've noticed is that even conservative Muslims, unfortunately, are too willing to accept this idea. These Muslims say, look, it's true Islam is strict and tough, but frankly, that's the price of Jannah. That's the ticket to paradise. No pain, no gain, right? But I don't buy that because that's giving way too much credit to the alternative lifestyle, the short shorts way of life. Because let's be real here. Life is not easy for anyone. Everyone has to abide by rules, regulations, and stricture. Doesn't matter if you're liberal or conservative, Muslim or non-Muslim. The problem is the rules and regulation of religion are psychologically experienced by people today as burdensome. And the rules and regulations of day-to-day culture, they're not experienced as burdensome at all. They're experienced as liberation or freedom of choice or just living your everyday life. We can talk about the example of short shorts itself. When you really think about it on a conceptual level, are short shorts really more liberating than a long skirt or an abaya? How can a piece of fabric be inherently more or less liberating than another piece of fabric? Sure, Islam has rules of dress for women and men, and people are quick to call that oppression, but newsflash, every culture and society on earth has rules of dress. Even in Western so-called liberated society, you have dress codes, you have standards of fashion. There are parts of the body you can and cannot expose by force of law, like indecent exposure laws. But even beyond the law, look at all the pressure women and especially young girls feel to dress sexy, to look like Beyonce in this hypersexualized society that we live in. We're even seeing an epidemic of depression in young girls. But no one calls any of that oppression. Why? Or even consider cosmetic surgery. What I wonder is covering your hair, more burdensome, or literally mutilating your body so that you fit some arbitrary standard of beauty? The question is, why is the hijab seen as a symbol of oppression, but putting yourself under the knife so you can find a boyfriend or a husband and feel loved and beautiful and accepted in society, why is that seen as okay or even praiseworthy as an act of self-expression? To me, personally, it makes absolutely no sense. Another example is makeup. I know personally the idea of covering every square inch of my face with toxic chemicals is very appealing. Unfortunately, in these messed up times, there is no greater symbol of freedom than a woman's face plastered in chemicals sold by big corporations who also spend billions of dollars in advertising telling you that if you don't marinate your face in their product, you won't be beautiful and you won't be loved. Now, you might be thinking, well, in Islam, hijab is religiously mandatory. But when it comes to makeup, women have a choice to wear makeup or not. Do they really? Take your average 2-year-old girl. She's surrounded, as she grows up, by women who wear makeup. She grows up watching Disney cartoons with pretty princesses all made up, dressed up, trying to find their prince. This girl grows up watching TV and movies with actors and actresses caked in makeup. This girl grows up and her whole conception of what a normal woman looks like has been molded to a T. Her whole definition of not only what is beautiful, but also of what is decent and proper, everything has been implanted in her mind and her innermost consciousness. So after all that, if she starts wearing makeup as a young woman, do we really call that a choice? I don't. I call that indoctrination. I call that brainwashing. And it's obvious that if you tell this girl, hey, don't paint yourself up like a circus clown, don't dress in short shorts, and so on, obviously she'll think that you're crazy and that you're trying to restrict her and that the rules you're proposing are too strict and burdensome. But again, look at it from a different perspective. You have this young woman who has been brainwashed into thinking that she needs to spend countless hours carefully coloring her face according to arbitrary standards, and ultimately is very ritualistic and unnatural. And that's really the danger of Western monoculture that's being spread throughout the world via satellite TV and internet. More and more kids around the world are growing up consuming this stuff, watching this stuff, and they're internalizing these Western standards of dress and life and being conditioned to think of it as uniquely normal and healthy and decent. And anything that contradicts those standards and that lifestyle is seen as uniquely oppressive and unnatural and unhealthy. Traditional religions like Islam stand no chance given that background of conditioning. So, given that, are we really surprised that more and more Muslim young women psychologically feel that the hijab is oppressive and decide to take it off, whether in the West or in Muslim countries? Are we surprised that people in general view Muslim standards of dress as strange, but plastic surgery and covering your face in toxic chemicals and piercing your body with jewelry and injecting dye into your skin for permanent tattoos, all those are somehow perfectly normal and liberating? Why? Honestly, we can talk about clothes and fashion and standards of dress all day, and there are a million things that we can talk about, but here's another example that might resonate with you. Maybe you guys are familiar with this important cultural ritual known as prom. Now, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or non-Muslim, but prom has a lot of ritualistic aspects to it. You have to have the right clothes, you have to go with the right people or the right person, you have to be in a certain kind of place and do certain kinds of things and wear specific accessories and rent a limo and on and on and on. And that's a lot of work. It's also a lot of pressure to abide by all these arbitrary customs. But people do it and they have fun and they don't think about it as a burden or overbearing. Why? It's not like prom has any practical utility. It's just an arbitrary event, a social custom. Now again, you might say that prom is voluntary, whereas Islam has obligatory practices. And to that I say, if you've ever been a high school student in America, you know that prom is not voluntary. Sure, you can skip it, but only at risk of being socially ostracized and being seen as a weirdo. The author of the Short Shorts essay, for example, thinks other Muslims judge her and are intolerant to her because of her choices. But if you really want to feel judgment and intolerance, try being a Muslim senior in high school skipping prom. And the strict social requirements don't go away after you graduate high school. We can talk about tons of other examples like the pressure to drink, the pressure to engage in premarital relations, the hookup culture, and on and on. But really the point is this, and this is kind of the takeaway that I want to emphasize to you all is, whether you're religious or not, whether you subscribe to organized religion or you're just spiritual or whatever, you can't escape strict rules, strict standards of behavior and speech. That's what it means to live in society and be a part of civilization. The only difference is Some of those requirements we experience as burdensome, and others we don't really think twice about, or don't even think of them as requirements as such. The problem is we've been conditioned, heavily conditioned in this day and age to experience the rules of religion as a burden. But in reality, the strictness or burdensomeness of religious rules compared to the tons of arbitrary rules and customs you find throughout every single culture that everyone follows without batting an eye, there's no substantive difference there. So let's just drop this cliche about Islam being so difficult and impractical compared to modern culture because frankly, it's stupid. It's hypocritical and it has no basis in reality. When people single out an Islamic lifestyle as being too burdensome and too hard, what they really mean is this. Look, Islam is not what I'm used to. The Islamic lifestyle is not what I'm personally comfortable with given my background, my upbringing, my education, my culture. The Islamic lifestyle doesn't fit my personal arbitrary definition of normal. So to wrap it up, to all the liberated people out there, by all means, practice Islam in short shorts. But in the end, there's no need for the condescending, overly sentimental schlock about how those magical short shorts somehow liberate you or make you freer and more open-minded than the rest of us.